Director of CSIR National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science. He is a professor and the Dean of Chemical Sciences, Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research. He had left no stone unturned to learn and prove his mettle. His research contributions are recognized with several prestigious awards, including Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize for Chemical Sciences, the Infosys Science Prize, the J.C. Bose National Fellowship, and many more. He is the first chemist to receive the Infosys Science Prize. He has published over 160 research articles. Based on his commendable contribution to research and teaching, he has been recognized as a fellow in different national and international boards. Today, he is talking to us on his favorite topic, challenges and opportunities in research and development. Welcome, Dr. A. Ajay Ghosh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Am I visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. You are visible and audible, sir.
Audible also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In between something happens, somebody should, point out, because you never know. Sometimes the, audio can break or video can break. Probably I may not be knowing. So one of the participants can raise the hand or put your comment in the comment box, or somebody can unmute your mic and then say when something is wrong. Okay,
definitely, sir. Definitely,
let me begin by thanking the organizers, particularly Mr. Santosh Kumar, for giving me this invitation. And I'm a scientist. I'm not a public orator, so I don't know the art of articulating public speech. So whenever I need the aid of a few slides, because science, you can't talk without slides. So may I share my slides with you?
Sure, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah.
So your slides are visible.
Okay. So
yes,
I hope all of you can see it.
Yes,
and
sir.
So I'm so delighted to know that St. Xavier's College, in collaboration with State Institute of Encyclopedia, has taken some initiative and interest in organizing this webinar. As my previous speaker said, webinars have become the order of the day. And we are depending upon all these virtual media to communicate and to teach and learn. And I was so particularly delighted to see that this is on multidisciplinary topics. Whenever I see something interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, I get excited, because I'm leading an institute in that name, Institute for Interdisciplinary Science, but it is focused on science and research and technology. But your conference, I understand that you have a broad areas in different domains of public life, whether it is education or science or cinema or media. So, but I think that this is really the right time, and the topic is so relevant, and particularly the sub-theme that you have selected for today is the discussion is never stop learning. I mean, that is the mantra. I think I as a scientist, I may think that I may know many things, but once I sit back and then review my knowledge, I can easily say that I don't know anything. I still have to learn. So for every moment, for me, is a learning process. Even this lecture, I could listen to some of the few topics. I was so thankful to the organizers, bringing those wonderful people, great orators, give such lectures. So as I said, when I was asked to give this lecture, I was wondering, in a public forum, when there are people from different areas, I'm sure that the audience may consist of, students and researchers and people from various subjects. So it is not fair for me to focus something on hardcore science or something. So I will try to speak on a layman's language, and I know that it's not that easy, especially when you talk about science. So I thought of just telling something about the R&D opportunities and challenges ahead of us. So before I go into that, probably I should say something about the sufferings that human beings have been undergoing all these years. Because we have many natural disasters, over the years, whether it is flood or wildfire or tornado or tsunami, landslide. So this is the part of our life. We know what is a natural calamity, what is a disaster. Especially, many of you may remember the last 2 to 3 years, even in this small state of Kerala, how much we are suffering because of the natural calamities. So once upon a time, this was not known to us, especially in this part of the country, what is a natural calamity. But now we are seeing it. And so there are many reasons, that may need another lecture. So I don't want to go into that. But, it is also good to take you to a little bit of history, even though I'm not a historian. What I would like to say that, as I mentioned, the human life, humanity is full of sufferings. And for example, the generation, before us, you imagine, the kind of sufferings they had in the form of the 2 world wars. They have seen 2 world wars. They have seen, thousands of people, dying, and they have seen nuclear bomb, the casualties created across the globe. And then later, you have seen a large number of pandemics, epidemics. Even our generation have seen many of those epidemics in the form of, for example, we know smallpox, cholera, plague, the famous Spanish flu, Ebola, Nipah. Some of them are new. So, but today we look at, for example, this is the a document of WHO, and they say that even in the short span of 2011 to 16 or 17, there are events of at least 1,300 different kinds of epidemic. Some of these are regional, some of these are national. So what I'm saying is that these are not new to humankind, and we human know how to handle it. Okay, but now we are in a very different kind of situation, an unprecedented kind of a situation, very difficult situations. This generation could not even imagine such a situation will come. We could never imagine that we will sit in a closed room for days and do something. Unimaginable. And the agony and the difficulties, the despair that brought into the minds of our young people, their mental agony. So now, after all this, now we have this new avatar of COVID-19. And when COVID-19 erupted, the common man was they were completely unaware of what it is. What are the reality and what are the myths of this particular pandemic, which we have never encountered before. And of course, the scientific community and the educated community know a little bit about what it is a virus, what is a coronavirus, what is COVID-19. But the common man, the public, they don't know much about. And they depend upon the social media, the WhatsApp, and most of the messages that put across is false. And the poor people, they believe in. And they get confused, and we are utter chaos. So it is essential for, and it is the responsibility of the scientific community, the educated people, to make aware of the facts of this pandemic and why is it so, what is the microorganisms involved. So I thought of flashing one slide just for their information on a layman language. So when we say about this virus, what is this virus, coronavirus? You might have seen some of these images, which is nothing but a kind of artist view of this virus. But the actual image of a virus that you can see, a few months back, or maybe a few years back, I was listening to a channel, and I heard, someone sitting and arguing that there is no virus. Anybody has seen virus? So many such, questions. But the fact is that virus exists, and that is why we have this pandemic here. And of course, scientists know what is a virus. People have seen virus. There are equipment available to see virus. So to see this virus, is it that big enough to see? No, it is a very, very small, tiny object of 50 to 200 nanometer size. It can vary, but the coronavirus is something like an average of 100, 120 nanometer. So when I say nanometer, the common man, they don't know what is a nanometer. They can't even imagine nanometer. So you have to tell them what is a nanometer. So 1 nanometer is something like 10 to the power of minus 7 centimeters or 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. Okay. So how do I compare? You can see in the right hand side here, something I have shown here, a small tiny object. This is a virus, which is 0.1 micron, that is 100 nanometer. Then there is a bacteria, which is larger, which is of a few micrometer, 5 micron, 10 micron. And then if you talk about a particle, can be, 50 micron or 100 micron size, the dust particle, and even bigger. But if I have to say and compare what is, a virus size, then I should say, for example, if you take our a strand of hair, it is like something like the width of the hair is 80,000 to 100,000 nanometer wide. So that means to see a virus of 100 nanometer, you have to tear that hair at least to 100,000 times, So it is that small. So a coronavirus is a kind of a common RNA virus in terms of the, scientific terminology. And it causes an infection, we know, especially the upper respiratory infection. And then depending upon the health of the person, its DNA and many other parameters, it can go to the lower respiratory system and it can create, complications. And then you see it is called the SARS virus, SARS-CoV-2 virus. And why it is called SARS? Because it is in this category, in this family of virus. COVID-19 belongs to this. That is sudden acute respiratory syndrome virus, or it is like the Middle East respiratory syndrome virus, MERS. So it belongs to this class of virus. So this I'm telling just for the information of the students or people who are not dealing with science. Okay, but the fact is that since we are living with this kind of a microorganism which is strange, which is very strange to us, COVID-19, we were now forced to adopt a new way of life. And this new way of life is nothing but living together. Maybe some of the youngsters know living together. It is not for our country, it's like a notorious term, People don't marry and live together. But for me, this meaning is now, it's a very different, especially under the context of COVID-19. We have now learned how to live together with corona or microorganisms. We are learning how to live together with our family now. And this must be underlined, because in our busy life, most of the time we forget to live with our family. Everybody is busy. The husband is busy, the wife is busy, the children are busy. There's no time. I don't know whether people may be able to see each other at one point of time. Very, very difficult, especially in the Western world. But now, due to this pandemic, due to this microorganism, this virus, we are forced to live within our family. We can now sit together, we can crack jokes, we can walk together, and the father has time to look after the child. The mother has time to look after their children, and the wife was time to look after her husband. So it's a fantastic time. Okay. Now we learned what is a mask. We never knew about the use of a mask, how to wear a mask, what is the importance of wearing a mask. Then we know what is the culture of sanitizing our hand time to time. I remember when earlier there was some propaganda on the use of soap and other kind of things. People were at that time joking, and this is just a strategy to sell their soap and sanitizers and other kind of things. No, scientifically, it is true. You have to sanitize your hand once in a while. Not all the time, it is not required, but at least once in a time, in a day, it is good to sanitize, especially you think that you have touched on something which is strange, which is a foreign thing, which can cause some infection. Then we learn another important thing, not to spit on public places. Especially in our country, people don't care. They go to public places and spit and litter the place. And this is also, people have become much more aware. And we know how to sneeze and cough. Earlier people were coughing in open air, but now it is like this. You have to sneeze or cough. And this is a learning process. So we are continuously learning things. And then another important thing is the culture of work from home. I think the previous speaker was also mentioning about the power of sophisticated, equipment and gadgets like smartphones and computer. And now we know how to work from home. So the entire culture of meeting, teaching, learning, working, not only working, worshipping, that has also changed. We know how to sit at home and worship. We need not go to the place where God is. God will come to us. This is a new thing. And also the culture of shopping. Now everything is online shopping. So this was a learning time for us. We are now learning new things. For the older people, it's a very strange kind of situation, but the young generation and the children, this is an exciting time. And for them, it is easy to adapt. But the serious question is whether this is the solution. Adapting to the situation is necessary, required, but is that the solution? Certainly not. We have plenty of problems now thrown to us, and we need to find out the solutions. And always it is responsibility of the scientific community. So for this pandemic situation, COVID-19, even though we are successful, our government, our healthcare sectors, our police, everyone is helping the common man to stop it, to prevent the pandemic spreading. But is that the solution? These are temporary solutions. And what is the permanent solution? Permanent solution is completely stop it, eradicate this from this universe, from the earth. And this is possible only through science and technology interventions. I underline only through science and technology. There comes the importance of science and technology. And now this situation has opened up many challenges and opportunities to us. Okay, so what are these challenges? As I said, we are in a completely chaotic situation. It is a very complex situation. We have to unwind that complexity to meet those challenges. Of course, the most important challenges at the beginning of any pandemic situation is stop spreading. And we are successful in that. Okay. And once you stop spreading, still we have a Herculean task of rescuing people, those who are in danger. We should rescue them. And this is all possible only through a strong R&D innovation ecosystem. Only through research and development. People should know, the R&D community should know how to innovate. And there is something called a Global Innovation Index. And I'm very proud that India is climbing that ladder every year. Now the last Global Innovation Index was released. We were all happy that we have jumped 4 or 5 places above. So the R&D innovation system, the science and technology in this country is improving. That is a good sign. But for all this, as your theme tells, never stop learning. So it is extremely important to have this kind of webinar, workshops, seminars, discussions, debates, to continue the tempo of going for more and more information. So never stop learning. Now come to R&D. To have a strong R&D ecosystem, especially when we are looking for a permanent solution to a pandemic like this, what is more important is that our science should be strong enough. We should have a strong scientific community. Not only that, as I said, we should have innovative minds. For that, we should have skill. And you know, there is something called a Skill India. The government is promoting the skill that is still consists of many things. It's learning, knowledge, training, experience, so many things. And now to innovate in science, our R&D system should be very strong. That means our research, scientific research should be very strong. And you know, science is not a manpower, it is actually brain power. You should have the best brains in the domain of science. Now, how will you attract best? You have to attract the young minds. You have to catch them very young, train in science. But for that matter, not only for science, I think every subject, if you want to excel, you should have the best minds. But people are good for certain things. Some people have some, interest in science. So you have to identify those people. And today our education system, since this subdomain is also dealing with the higher education and related things, I should also say that our higher education or our education system as a whole is rotten today. We still, have that traditional style, and we are training our students to get maximum marks and to qualify entrance exam. You are not inculcating any kind of skill in them, how to innovate, how to develop machines. So this is extremely important, and this is the responsibility of our educational, fraternity, especially higher education. That way, I am so happy that now the government is talking about a new education policy. Of course, there are, many things to discuss about it. There are a lot of debate going on. It may be good, it may be bad. I'm not discussing any of those things. But what we need is, or what I want to stress at this point is that we need a change. We have to continuously change. Something may not be acceptable at that point of time, but later you will find that was very necessary. An example is the computer itself. When computer was coming, people were opposing it, left and right, tooth and nail. But today, you see, it is part of your life. So we should understand this, and we should continuously change for continuous learning. And now let me come to the domain of science and technology interventions. As I said, science and technology intervention is the only permanent solution for any situation like this. How will you completely eradicate such a situation? How you completely save our people from these sufferings? We need to have many different domains which should be very strong. Our health sector, our research, our science and technology, everything should be strong enough. For example, to handle such a situation, there should be a good surveillance system to see the progress, how this disease pandemic is progressing. Okay, and then there should be diagnostic, that is testing. We should have a proper system, strong system. And then we should have a proper drugs, medications to treat the infected people. And then for completely stopping, you need vaccines. And those who are in the hospitals, you need hospital assistive devices. See, all this is possible only through strong brain, strong innovation, plenty of facilities, strong institutions, and strong funding systems. So fortunately, this country is progressing. We are adding more and more such R&D ecosystem in this country. We are promoting innovation. We are promoting higher learnings. So I'm sure that with all this, the scientific community can defeat this situation. Probably it may take some time, but ultimately I'm hopeful that solution will come. So now I come from an organization which is one of the strongest chain of R&D systems in this country under public sector, which is called the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. Probably many of you may know about CSIR, but I'm sure that the common man may not be aware of such an organization. But the fact is that CSIR is one of the strongest organizations in this country, like other organizations, ICMR, DRDO, ICAR, so many such, And when this pandemic started, CSIR has started some strong steps, taken some strong steps under the leadership of his DG, Dr. Shekhar Mande. And in CSIR, we have identified 5 major, major activities. One is, of course, surveillance. The second is diagnostics. The third is repurposing of drugs. That was an immediate requirement. Then hospital assistive devices. And then, of course, the supply chain of all these things. So we have started working on these. All our laboratories specialized on some of these. For example, some laboratories we have 38 laboratories across the country, around 4,600 scientists working, some 8,000 technicians, total 16,000 people working in this organization with more than 500 to 600 crores of budget. So whenever this country was facing a problem, the scientific community of CSIR was there for scientific intervention and finding out the solutions. There are so many such things that I can show, but I don't have time for all these things. What I wanted to tell you is that CSIR rose to the occasion and started working on this. See, one of the first thing, as I said, that we should stop the virus. And that means we need protection. And this protection, what are these materials? You need a lot of masks. You need plenty of them. You need gloves. You need coverall. You need goggles and face shield, all these things. And then we need to have enough testing kits and then surveillance system. And when we started this pandemic, we never thought that it's going to be of this magnitude. So many of these things were short. We were facing shortage of these things. The Indian companies and the government entities have placed orders for 50 million personal protective equipment during the time when this started, including PPE kits, gowns, masks, and also 1.5 million rapid testing kits. And these all were coming from China. And this country, we were not making any of these things. So this was a difficult situation. Look at, we have to heavily depend upon import coming from some other country. And the business people will look at opportunities. So when a huge shortage is there, huge demand is there, the price will also shoot up. Can we afford this? So we had to have our own indigenous things. So the CSIR, one of the CSIR laboratories at Bangalore, which is called NAL, National Aeronautics Laboratories, which are working on aeronautics and related areas, aerodynamics and other things. So they immediately came up with some idea of making the protective coverall suit. And then they designed indigenous, protective coverall suits and PPE kits. And they transferred the technology to some of the companies and they started making in thousands and thousands. And this could, took care of some of the shortage of these things in this country. And when some of these PPE kits were coming from China and all, half of it were of, inferior quality. It was not, passing the safety and other measures. So it was very much necessary that we indigenously make it as a part of Make in India. So we made it. The second thing is test. There were no test kits available. Everything was coming from China or some other places. So our institute at Delhi, IGIB, that is Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, they have designed a test kit, which is one of the cheapest and fastest, even faster than RT-PCR. And now this was under, test at different levels. And I'm so glad that day before yesterday, ICMR cleared it. And the Tata Sons is going to make it in large quantities and then will be available in this country in the next few days. This is one of the major contribution of CSIR. I'm very proud of it. And this is called Feluda. Feluda is, named after the fictional character from Satyajit Ray's detective movie Feluda. Okay, so Feluda will be soon coming into Indian market. And then another thing is on the drug repurposing. Especially the APIs, that is active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is required for making all these life-saving drugs. Most of these things were coming from China. It was heavily, Indian pharmaceutical industries were heavily import dependent. And about 65% of the raw materials required for the making of life-saving medicines and common medicines worth 3.5 billion were sourced from China. And now today, suddenly there is a shortage. So what will you do when you have shortage? You have to make it. There is no other choice. And the manufacturers of drugs in India is, when heavily depending upon China, how we will make these things indigenously. So first of all, we have to indigenously make the raw materials required for making these drugs. And now this is an incredible opportunity. So that is one of the opportunities that we can think of. I earlier mentioned about the opportunities of making, PPE kits. Now you have another opportunities of making drugs, especially active pharmaceutical ingredients. And today a big change is happening. And now the Indian government is promoting the making of, all the APIs. And now India is moving towards reducing the dependency of active pharmaceutical intermediate import. There has been a 4% reduction in the import of APIs during the last 1 year, which actually need a sort of a clapping. Because this is a great thing. And now the government is also promoting. And the government has already set up a few mega parks in different states. The central government is giving grants to the states to the tune of 1,000 crores for making, pharma park. And this is a good opportunity for the Kerala government, I should say, to tap this fund, to create a pharma park in Kerala, which will certainly take care of our needs of the state and needs of the country. And when we talk about drugs repurposing, I don't want to put you too much of chemistry or anything, which as many of you may not understand. But for the sake of completion, I should just show one medicine that is now being used for treating, COVID-19. Probably you must have read in the newspaper, there are several drugs like, Favipiravir, Remdesivir, like this. Some of you must have read in the newspaper. So what is Favipiravir? This is a structure of a Favipiravir, the chemistry students and the chemistry researchers will understand. But this is actually a prodrug. When you take it, it goes to the body and have some reactions, and then it becomes the active drug, and then they kill the virus. And now CSIR has made a cheaper, procedure to make this Favipiravir, and in collaboration with the pharmaceutical giant Cipla, we are now bringing to the market for the treating, corona patients. So also CSIR is now working towards designing, many vaccine candidates, because as I said, vaccine is the ultimate. May I stop and again check with you whether you are audible and visible? Someone can tell me. Please unmute.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay. And you can also tell me when my time is over, because I know that we are running late and I started my lecture a bit late also. I'm supposed to speak half an hour. So I would like to stop at half an hour so you can tell me, okay? So this is some of the new developments happened, recent development happened within CSIR. The picture that you see here is the Director General of CSIR, Dr. Shekhar Mande, who is a biophysicist. And he is telling in the media that CSIR's plan of making COVID-19 vaccines and other medicines and its progress with the plan. And now I'll talk a little bit about the contribution of my institute here, which is a part of CSIR. Many of you know that there is an institute here in Trivandrum, middle of Trivandrum, which is called CSIR NIIST, that is National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science and Technology. As the name says, this is an interdisciplinary institute where we practice chemistry, physics, material science, microbial processes, agro-processing, environmental technology. So it is a truly interdisciplinary laboratory. Some of you might have seen this laboratory. If you have not seen and visited this place, please come and visit this. Sorry. So recent times, there are a lot of news in the media about some of our scientific interventions. One of our intervention is on a mask. Many people are working on different kinds of masks, but we are interested in transparent mask. And why transparent mask? Because especially this is very important for clinical practice. When the doctor put a mask and come to the patient may not be able to see the, the doctor may not be able to see the patient. The patient may not be able to see the doctor's face, sorry. But if it is a transparent mask, you may be able to see the doctor's face and his feelings. And that is very important for a patient and a doctor relationship and understanding. But it is not that easy, because mask has to, especially, clinical mask for surgical purpose and all, should meet a lot of specifications, stringent criteria. So we are trying to develop a mask with collaboration with some industry. Another thing is that, the immunity boosters are traditional, medicine, Ayurveda, traditional medical practice, all, tells a lot of things about the traditional immunity boosters. So our division in the, agri-nutri sector, they have, developed a new immune boosting system based on the traditional knowledge. This is called the Trikadu syrup. And Trikadu is known in, traditional medicine. And this came in the newspaper. And so we have, repurposed it. Especially, we have used, palm nira in this, palm syrup instead of jaggery. The palm syrup and some other changes in the combination. And this is found to be very effective for immunity boosting. And this, we were particularly interested in developing this not only to combat with this COVID-19 or help the immunity boosting, but also helping the poor farmers who are working in this field. Okay, because the people who are working in this palm, they have a lot of difficulties. So to help them to have their daily livelihood. And so this is now transferred to a cooperative society in Trivandrum district. And they are now trying to make it. Earlier they had a lot of difficulties because the place was under the lockdown and as a contaminated area. But now I think they are trying to make it. And also we developed some hand sanitizer based on herbals and also some inhalers. Inhalers are also very important. So these things are also transferred. And another thing was the automatic hand sanitizing devices. And that time, at the time of pandemic, not many such automatic hand sanitizing systems were not available in the market. A few products were available which were expensive, not common. So some of our scientists having some idea with the electronics and the devices, they developed this and transferred to some of the young entrepreneurs. Because we have to also rehabilitate these young people, it's also our responsibility. So we transferred all these free of cost to some of these young entrepreneurs, and they are making it, and these things are now available. And another thing is air sanitizer. Because, this air in closed room area, air conditions in theaters and in seminar halls, in the hospital corridors and all are heavily contaminated. The threshold density of the microbes, if it is too high, it is easy to get infected. So that concentration of microbes should be continuously decreased or eliminated from the air, especially where people gather. So that air should be cleaned and recirculated. So this is a device which developed by our environmental technology division, which is now available. And we are also now devising and designing many diagnostic kits based on the new modern science, especially based on the surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy. See, look at when Raman invented some of these things, he never thought of. Now today, Raman is there everywhere. We can be all very proud that Raman invented this kind of fundamental. This is the real translation of fundamental science, fundamental physics to application. Even today, we are heavily depending upon these kind of inventions. And we are also working on drug repurposing. Many of our CSIR laboratories, we have identified 15-20 commonly used drugs for treatment of broad spectrum viral diseases, particularly coronaviruses. And we are trying to repurpose this with the help of some of the pharmaceutical industries in this country. And our institute has identified 3 drugs, which is called nitazoxanide and galidesivir and EIDD 2801. And we have a new methodology to make this, and we have transferred this to CSIR for further taking up these things. And another major challenge, in front of us is that we are generating a lot of clinical waste today because of all this mask usage, PPE kits and other medical waste. So how to dispose this is going to be a big problem in front of us. So there should be easy way of doing this without, creating any damage to the environment and to the ecosystem, living ecosystems. So we are trying to develop some kind of, methodologies to sanitize these waste and also dispose them safely without contaminating with the people who are dealing with it. Okay. And so not only CSIR, many other, parallel organizations in this country. Even in Trivandrum, you might have heard of many things coming from our neighboring institute, Sri Chitra, our neighboring institute, Rajiv Gandhi. There is an institute in Kochi, NPOL, which is under the DRDO. They are all working day and night. They have come up with many small and bigger devices, starting from small, mask to oximeters, ventilators, to other, life-saving devices, drugs, sanitizers. So the scientific community is fully aware of, and they know their responsibility, and they are all working together. And our country is strongly equipped to handle this situation. And now when there is a necessity, see, everything, any invention is out of necessity. And today, the situation, it is very necessary for us to have our own. And a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, the government has already declared that we had the Make in India program. We have now the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the scientific community has a big challenge, in front of the people and in front of this nation. We are fully aware of, and now the hope is that the vaccine trials are coming into a success. Maybe by the end of this year or early next year, at least a couple of vaccines will be ready. And till that time, I think we have to bear with this COVID-19 situation. And there is something called a COVAX, which is a consortium of 172 various nations together, forgetting about all the national barriers and other things. Now science is global. Science is for everybody. This is not the time to patent and to make money out of it. When we have something, we should make it available to the entire human community, human, society. And that is what the global scientific community is doing. At least 10 different kinds of vaccine candidates are in trial. And some of these are the leading candidates, like Innovis of the Moderna, which is under phase 3 in USA. And CureVac of German, the AstraZeneca, which is Oxford University, UK, under phase 3. You must be reading some of the news is coming in. And because of this, their share values are also going up. Some of these companies, they are also making money. And Sputnik, which is the Russia, even under the phase 2 trial, they have started using it, which is very dangerous also. Because scientific ethics doesn't allow this kind of usage because it can create other kind of problems. And Israel also claims that they have a successful vaccine. But we can be also very proud that India also have at least a few candidates, and the best one is Covaxin. So far, Covaxin is successful. The Bharat Biotech and ICMR together, which is under phase 2 trial in India, which we hope that we will also succeed in this. If that comes, we can be all, the Indian people and the Indian scientific community can be also very proud of. I must compliment our, health and welfare, minister and the science and technology minister, Dr. Harshvardhan. He is a doctor himself, and he is promoting all this. He is spearheading all this. So far, everything is going well, even though we have so much of spreading and all those things which we can't help. But I must say, we are successful. The country as a nation, we are successful. The people are very much aware. They are cooperating. The scientific community is, showing their responsibility. The government is showing the responsibility. And I'm very hopeful. I'm an optimist, like many of you. I hope that soon there will be a solution that will be the ultimate scientific solution. And our minister himself said that when the vaccine is ready, he will be the first person to take the first shot of the vaccine. And that is the kind of spirit he has. So it is our responsibility to support this government and this minister and the entire the people of this country. And finally, I take this opportunity in thanking the organizers, because this is very, very timely, very, very appropriate to have such a webinar discussing on the different domains in a multidisciplinary fashion. And I'm so glad to be a part of these things. I particularly congratulate them. And finally, I would like to stop by saying, never stop learning. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the highly informative talk. Now it's the time for participants to interact with the resource person. Now I invite Dr. Hari Shesar, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany and Biotechnology, to proceed with the interactive session.
I know that we are a bit late, and probably I also must have overshot a little bit. I don't know. Usually I try to be on time. People must be hungry also. But if any one of you have any important question, clarification, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can even mail to me, or you can call me. No problem.
Sir, it's my privilege to be involved in this interaction session, followed by your talk.
Thank you.
In fact, we have few queries in the comment box, and a few participants have typed their query. And I will read a few of them within the limited time frame. Sir, one of the question that is from one participant named Nitya, and her question is, I want to ask that, does our country really tap the potentials of numerous qualified personnel who still remain unemployed?
Enough qualified people to?
The question is, does our country really tap the potentials of numerous qualified personnel who still remain unemployed?
That is it's a complicated question, very diplomatic, and maybe there are a lot of issues involved. No country will tap the full potential of any available manpower. No country will be able to provide them opportunities, enough opportunities to all of them. But what is important is to tap the potential of the country to the extent possible. But that depends upon so many things, First of all, it depends upon the financial situation of the country, the economy. And you know that because of the pandemic, the COVID-19, the after effect is going to come. We are now going to face a serious threat of an economic shutdown. So of course our potential has not been utilized for this, but as a nation, I think we have enough potential to handle this kind of a situation.
Okay. Sir, we have a couple of questions more. One question from Sanjana, that is in the chat box. How, in your opinion, will this pandemic change the course of scientific research in India as well as abroad?
Oh, it is again, it is, as I said, that is going to be the next challenge for us. And not only for us, the whole world, across the globe, there is going to be a problem of not only in R&D sector, but in every sector. Every sector, there are going to be problems. Already there are a lot of unemployment. Many people have lost their job. But to address specifically R&D community, for example, the people who have recently completed their studies, they obtained PhD and all, they will really find difficulty even getting a new fellowship to pursue their higher studies. The foreign countries will close all the doors. In India also, our opportunities will be less because there are many issues that the government has to handle, to address. So certainly going to be a difficult situation. Opportunities will be very less, and I feel sorry about our young generation that they will really face difficulties.
So we have one more question in the chat box. How this mutation of coronavirus will affect our country in particular?
Yeah, to talk about mutation, I must confess that I'm not a biologist, I'm a chemist. But the fact is that any microorganisms get mutated over the course of time. Sometimes it get mutated and become very stronger. And sometimes you get mutated, get weaker and disappear. And that is what exactly happened in the case of the Spanish flu. Spanish flu was such a dangerous disease. In short time, it killed lakhs of people. But then it suddenly disappeared. That is because of mutation. And this coronavirus is also, undergoing mutation, and their DNA fingerprint, everything is now, their other studies, not a DNA fingerprint, their other mutation studies are going on in different institutions in this country. And there are a lot of data available now, how this disease is, progressing, how this virus is getting mutated. But it will take some more time to get, but it also depends upon the region and the diaspora and all. So, but now we have a feel that in Kerala, I think it is getting mutated, and probably it may be becoming weaker and weaker. If you look at the trend of the disease, it is fast spreading, but it is not very dangerous. The mortality rate is so slow, low compared to many other diseases, other virus diseases. And the mortality is mainly due to comorbidity. You must remember that it is not due to this virus alone. It's due to other complications. So if you really look at the actual morbidity due to this coronavirus, it may be very small percentage.
One last question. What strategies need to be developed in future to encounter such similar pandemics?
The thing is that, see, on a lighter sense, I heard someone asking that, what is this virus? It can be easily washed away with the soap and, in WhatsApp, and now scientists are struggling. They can't even find a medicine. They can't even find a vaccine for this. What kind of science we are doing? What is our scientists doing? It's a genuine question. You cannot blame the common man when they ask such questions, because that is because of their ignorance. See, these viruses are not, prefabricated virus, which is sitting somewhere, and then there are a lot of myths and stories that, it emerged from somewhere and all. It may be there in nature. Okay. It may be there, but it emerged at time to time due to many kind of even human intervention. Okay. And such virus, but we cannot prepare a medicine or a vaccine for a virus which is emerging after 10 years or next day. We have to first see the virus and what is its nature, what is its structure, what is its mechanism. Then only you can, make a medicine or a device or a vaccine for that. So when another pandemic comes, you have to again repeat all this. But of course, there are many learning processes. From this pandemic, now we learned many things. So when a similar pandemic again, erupt, we will know how to handle it. Because for this, we were under complete chaos. What to do, how to do. People were panicked. But now, even though it is spreading, people are taking it very lightly and then moving coolly everywhere. They are not worried about it is spreading. It can affect you. But the fear, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയണത്, എന്താ പറയുന്നത്, ഗവൺമെന്റ് പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, ഭയമല്ല ജാഗ്രതയാണ് വേണ്ടത് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. പക്ഷെ നമുക്ക് ഒരു വൈറസിനും ഇങ്ങനെ നമുക്ക് നേരത്തെ ഒരു മെഡിസിനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു വാക്സിനോ ഒന്നും പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്തിരിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. ഓരോന്ന് വരുമ്പോഴും അപ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ കാണുക, അത്രേ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെ ഒരെണ്ണം വന്നത് രണ്ടാമത് വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും നമുക്ക് ഈ മെഡിസിനും കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉപയോഗിക്കാം. കൊറോണ ഇപ്പം അങ്ങ് തീർന്നിട്ട് ഒരു കൊല്ലം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് വീണ്ടും കൊറോണ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പം നമുക്ക് എന്താ പറയുക, മലേറിയ, കോളറ ഒക്കെ വന്നിട്ടില്ലേ, വന്നിട്ട് പോയി, പ്ലേഗ് ഒക്കെ വന്നിട്ട് പോയി, പിന്നെയും വരികയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ട്രീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം, നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിൽ മെഡിസിൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെ പല മെഡിസിൻസുമാണ് ഇപ്പം മലേറിയയ്ക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതാണ്. ഹൈഡ്രോക്സി ക്ലോറോക്വിനോൺ നമ്മൾ ഇതിന് കൊടുക്കുന്നു. ഇതിന് കൊടുക്കുന്ന പല മരുന്നും നമ്മൾ നേരത്തെ പല ബ്രോഡ് സ്പെക്ട്രം വൈറൽ ഡിസീസിന്, ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസയ്ക്ക് കൊടുത്ത വൈറസും ആ മരുന്നും ഒക്കെയാണ് കൊടുക്കുന്നത്. COVID-19 ഒരു മാത്രമായിട്ടൊരു മരുന്ന് ഇനിയും കണ്ടുപിടിക്കേണ്ടിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. സോ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് എപ്പോഴും ഇതിനകത്തൊരു ചലഞ്ച് ഉണ്ട്, അപ്പോൾ അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസും ഉണ്ട്. സോ ദ ബോട്ടം ലൈൻ ഈസ് കണ്ടിന്യൂ ലേണിംഗ്, നെവർ സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ലേണിംഗ്.
Okay, if there are no further queries, we may conclude the session. Thank you very much, sir. It was a very simple, comprehensive and fabulous talk citing the challenges and opportunities. Thank you very much, sir.
അതാണ് പറയാനുള്ളത്. നിങ്ങളോടെല്ലാം നന്ദിയുണ്ട്. പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ അച്ഛനോടും സന്തോഷ് കുമാറിനോടും ബാക്കി ഇത് നിങ്ങൾ ഓർഗനൈസ് ചെയ്ത എല്ലാ